Good evening and welcome to this session, our remote session. Good evening and welcome to our session on remote learning. Remote learning, how best you can support your your students while they're off on this other lockdown. I'm Mr. Daly. I'm one of the assistant principals, and I'm kind of overseeing the move to this remote platform for these kinds of sessions. And today, the kind of format for this evening will be that I'm going to introduce the head teacher, who will just do a brief, say a brief hello to you and a thank you for all the support that you've given to the college over these very difficult times. And then I'm just going to come back to me. I'm going to do a summary of our kind of provision, our remote provision that we're offering now. If you've seen any of the letters from the head teacher of our EduLink, you'd have seen what our kind of provision is. And there was a video that Miss Casey put together a couple of weeks ago, which gave a real good overview summary of what we're doing. But just to be very clear, I'm just going to do a very brief summary of what we're offering and how best you can kind of support your son or daughter as well. As I said, we're in this current lockdown. And then I'm going to hand over to Mr. Tijani, who's the next teacher, who worked at the school for several years and now supports various institutions and schools and colleges with their online remote provision. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ms. Corcoran.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining in with our virtual parents' evening this evening. I just wanted to say a very quick hello to you and thanks for all of the support you've provided to us in your capacity as parents and carers of students this academic year. Obviously, when we started in September, we would have hoped that the situation would have perhaps been more positive and we would have more on-site learning at this point and the pandemic would have calmed down. But obviously we are where we are at the moment and we're in the middle of another national lockdown. Fortunately, the college had prepared very carefully for that since September, and we had various plans in place, contingency plans in place for different scenarios. So we do have a plan, and we'd had a plan in place for another lockdown scenario that just meant that all of the year groups would be working from home and accessing remote learning, and a small number of students whose parents required and opted for key worker provision would be able to be supervised accessing remote learning on site. So thank you very much for your support over the last couple of weeks as we've got up and running. Thank you for supporting your children and for staying in regular contact with the school whenever you've had concerns. We are doing our best to respond to any requests for support, IT support, as quickly as we can so that students can have access to the full learning, the full curriculum whilst they're at home, and we will endeavour to keep doing that so that students are supported to complete all of their courses in every single year group and following this full curriculum they would be following if they were in school. And we're going beyond the government requirements and actually have lots of opportunities for enrichment and extra provision as part of our offer for students during the lockdown. So I wanted to just make that very clear to parents. I want to thank you for your support. I totally appreciate that it is not easy to support your children with remote learning from home whilst you have demands of potentially your own work and other demands within your families at the moment. And I'm also aware that many of you have had family members or who have unfortunately contracted coronavirus and who have required medical treatment. And I'm also aware that some members of our community have also experienced bereavements due to the pandemic. So we're keeping you all in our thoughts and prayers at this time. We want to continue to work in partnership with you and ensure that students are supported to continue with their education, enjoy their education, enjoy their remote learning, so that when we are able to open the college up to more students and more year groups, they can come back in and they haven't developed gaps in their learning and they can continue to be successful with their education. So thank you for signing up this evening, for joining in with this workshop. Hopefully you'll find it useful and it will help you support your children from home.
Thank you very much for that, Mrs. Corcoran, and that message is reiterated of all the teaching staff at St Michael's College. As you can see there on the slides there, as I said, we're looking at supporting how we can support your child best with their remote learning. And This, as I said, is the agenda for the evening. You can see there our commitment. And the 2 to 5 will be Mr. Jani, as I said, will be giving you some tips and some kind of guidance as to how best you can get the most from this current remote learning situation. If you have a look here, now, as I said, you would have received this via several letters and via the video, but just to kind of just summarize, students expected to kind of a normal school day, really, normal college day, 8:50 to 3:15. Lessons will be a mix of live and set work. So we're looking at around at least 50% of the lessons being live on any given day. And as we've seen, that's kind of worked so far. I think that's worked quite successfully. I think it's not too onerous on the students. And given that we've got varying home situations in terms of access to resources and to equipment, so therefore I think that's working reasonably well at the moment. Same thing applies in terms of e-safety as if they were in the classroom. So please make sure that they're not taking any pictures, not doing anything that's untoward. And unfortunately, if any students consistently fail to do this, then we will expect them, we will potentially require them to come into the college and attend lessons here as a last resort. Form time, I just want to say thank you. We've had at least 90%, 95%, some year groups 99% full attendance each morning. And as I said, I think that's the best way to keep our students, keep your sons and daughters in that routine. We kind of saw in the summer lockdown, not just us and various other schools and colleges, that students were waking up at 9, 10, 11, 12, even 1 or 2 some of the phone calls we made home. And this means that they're continuing that set routine. As you probably would have seen, they register online, they register via their Google Classroom, they have Google Classroom set up via their tutor groups, and they must try, where possible, to make sure that their camera is on, that their tutors can verify, so that their tutors can verify their attendance. If they're not there, students are marked absent, and you've got various notifications or phone calls from the leaders of learning, just request to check that why they're not present. So please, just like a normal school day, they need to be present during that registration at 8:15. Again, lessons, I've said this quite just recently, but 9 o'clock we start lessons. We've got a mix of live and work set by their teachers. Where possible, we're asking, again, like a normal lesson, that students are completing that work in the provided slot, but we do understand that there may be certain reasons why that's not possible. So we'd ask that the deadline for any work set is 4 p.m. Now, again, please try, where possible, to make sure that your sons and daughters are completing the work on time. If they're not doing that by the deadline of 4 p.m. that day, they will get a negative mention. We will be assessing the students with mini assessments throughout the course of the term. And again, as I've put there, just behaviour, no shouting, make sure they're engaged, appropriate language in the chat forum, and that's hopefully the provision that we've got at the moment. It's kind of fluid. We're looking at constantly as a college and as a team to see if there's anything else that we need to change, but that's kind of it. And now I'll hand over to Mr. Jani. It's going to give you some more insight into the Google platform.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name's Lawrence Tajani. As you may know, I was a former teacher at the school. I now support schools in using Google for Education for their platform. So today's session is really just to give you a basis on what is Google for Education and how the school are using it and how best for you to support your child. So what we've got here is the Google for Education applications. And first of all, Google for Education is free to all schools that sign up for it and students. You may have seen some of these applications if you have a Gmail account. So we're just going to quickly go through some of them. So the first one we've got here is Google Chrome. And if you're working on a desktop or a laptop, that's how you would access Google Classroom, Google Meet. And then at the bottom, we've got some of the applications that come along with Google for Education. So I'm just going to quickly run through them from left to right. So we've got Google Slides, which is the equivalent of PowerPoint. We've got Google Docs, which is the equivalent of Word. And we've got Sheets, which is like Excel. And then over here in the middle, we've got Drive. This is where all your child's documents are stored securely and only accessed by the school. It's not accessed by Google, so all their data and information is kept privately and secure. These are a few other applications that we may go into at a later date, but these are the ones that you just need to be concerned with and your child will be familiar with there. Okay. And at any point, please do feel free to ask questions in the chat and I will pick them up towards the end of the session. So what is Google Classroom? So Google Classroom is a free online platform. It allows teachers to share assignments, quizzes, announcements, lesson materials, and so much more. But the most important thing during this time, it allows students to communicate with their teachers for that extra support while they're at home during this lockdown. And hopefully all your children should have been able to log in to Google Classroom. They should have been provided with a secure password and login that is unique to them. This is usually their email address. But if at any time your child is having any difficulties logging into Google Classroom, please do contact the school at the earliest convenience and using the email address contact@stmichaelscollege.org.uk. And just before we go into the live demo, to give you a view of what your child sees when they log into Google Classroom, is there are a number of ways you can access Google Classroom or Google Meet. You can access it on a mobile device or on a tablet, and recently you can also access it on an Xbox, a PS4, or a Kindle Fire as well. And what we'll do is we'll send out a link on how to access that on the Xbox and the PS4 and Kindle Fire. Just a note, if your child is using it on a mobile device, they will have to download the applications from the relevant platforms. So it's just not enough to download Google Classroom. They would also have to download Google Slides, Google Docs, and Google Sheets, so they're able to access the resources that have been provided by the teachers at St. Michael's. Okay, so we're going to jump into a demo now of Google Classroom just to give you a feel of how it looks and to navigate around it. So let me just change my screen. Let me just bear with me. Whoops, and there we go. We're now on the St. Michael's website, and that is the starting point. For your child to log in to Google Classroom, the first thing they would do is go to the St. Michael's website, which is stmichaelscollege.org.uk. And then once they've done that, they will then click on Login. Once they click on Login, they would click on Webmail Access, should I say. Because I've logged in already, it takes me straight through to my Launchpad, the St. Michael's Launchpad, with all the resources that I need. Just remember, it's your child's school email address, and that's what they should be using to connect to Classroom. Once we've got here, we've got to click on Google Classroom. So if we just zoom in there, this is the icon we would click on, Google Classroom. So I'm just going to click on Google Classroom, and that's going to open a new tab. Just bear in mind that the best way, or if you are accessing it from a desktop or a laptop, is to make sure you are using Google Chrome. That does give you the best experience in using Classroom. So we've logged into Google Classroom now, and this is the home page, should we say, the Launchpad. So for every subject that your child takes, there will be a correlating classroom for them. So they will have more than this. This is just a demo for you to see. So before we go into the classrooms, what we can also do is actually look at the to-do in the top left-hand corner. So I can click on to-do. And what's good about this is it will then show me as a student what tasks I have to complete. So I have the tasks for this week, it will have the tasks for next week, and if it's further on than that, it will be displayed down here at the bottom later. And as you can see, I've got all my deadlines here, so it's clear there in green. If I've missed it, it will be in red. I can also see if I've got any work missing, at the top right, and also any work that I've completed.
Can I just add, Mr. Sajani? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Parents, carers, this is super important, that tab, that to-do list. So you can go in there and monitor what work's been set, what work's been done, what work's missing. So please, when you're kind of looking at this later on or at a later point, please make sure you have a look at that to-do list so you can see what work your son or daughter has or is required to do.
So what I'll do is, Ms. Daly, I'll just go over that again. So if I wanted to come out of here, I would click in on the 3 lines in the top left-hand corner and then go to classes. And that will take me back to the launch pad as well. And it's just in the top left-hand corner to do for you to access that and to see all the assignments that your son or daughter will need to do. Okay, so let's jump into a classroom and let's see what a classroom looks like. So I'm going to click on the classroom that I want to enter. And for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to click on supporting your child with remote learning. So I've gone into my first classroom and this is called the stream. So as soon as your child clicks into a classroom, this is what they are greeted with. So any important announcements would be put in here by the teacher. Also to the left hand side, I further have the tasks that are due for this subject, for this classroom that I'm in. So that appears on the left hand side, due on Friday. Obviously if there was something that was due in on Thursday, that would appear here too. So this is just your touch point of where you can see all the announcements from your teacher, or from your child's teacher, should I say. Then if we go to the top, zoom in here, we've got classwork. We've got a classwork tab. So the children will be told to go to the classwork tab because this is where it's easy for them to find their assignments. This can get quite busy, the stream, because you have all your different announcements. But where they've got to go and do their physical work, this will be located under classwork, just at the top. So I'll just click on classwork. And now I'm into where my assignments are, or where some of my resources may be for the tasks that I need to complete for this particular lesson. So what I've done for this demo is that I've actually used the days of the weeks as the topics. This will differ from subject to subject. They might use it for the different units they are studying, or just a different topic or theme they are doing on that day. Okay, so we've got that all there. And we're going to have a look at one of the assignments to start off with. So we've got my future. If I just zoom in there, you can see this icon. It's like a clipboard, should we say. This indicates to me that I have an assignment to complete on this icon here. So I'm just going to zoom out there now, and then we're just going to go into it. So I'm going to go and view the assignment. So we've got a couple of things here that's really important to highlight for you. At the bottom here, we've got class comments. And this is where your son or daughter can ask the class a question if they want to get support from their peers. But just bear in mind, if they put the class comment in here, all of the class will be able to see it. Okay. If we go to the right hand side, we have a private comment. And that's what it says on the tin. A private comment is between the teacher and the student. Only the teacher will be able to see this comment. So this is really handy if they need additional support or have any questions. So the teacher will get a notification as soon as your child enters a private comment. So let's test this out. So what I'm going to do is I've read through this scenario and I'm not sure if there is a worksheet for this. So I'm just going to ask Mr. Daly, is there a template for this work? And I've typed that in there, and if I just click send now, that will go to Mr. Daly, and Mr. Daly will in the back receive a notification, and he will be able to add a comment there and answer.
Absolutely, yeah. I've received that comment, Mr. Tajani Lawrence, and I'll send back now. No,
Brilliant,
there
sir.
is no template. Sorry about my typing. Parents and
No
carers.
problem, sir.
Yeah, sorry, there is no template. Please make, sorry, make your own slides.
So while Mr. Daly's typing that in, that will appear to me hopefully in a moment. So that should pop up on the screen. So I've obviously heard what Mr. Daly said. There is no template for this particular assignment. Oh, there we go. It's popped up there. So if I just zoom in again, you can see the dialogue. This is a private dialogue between myself and Mr. Daly. So he's given me the information. There is no template. I would go and make my own slides. So I can be polite and say, thanks, sir.
Fantastic.
And
But Mr. Tajani, so if there's a comment they want to make with the class, they may think there's other students in the class that have got a similar misunderstanding. They can just send that in the class comment, can't they?
Exactly. If there's something that it might be a misconception and, you know, they want to ask that to the whole class, we would just simply go over to the left-hand side and then type our class comment, and the peers can reply to that as well. And that's a handy way to also learn. We learn best from our peers as well, so they can reply to each other on there. Just bear in mind, in the class comment, everyone can see it, and obviously a teacher is monitoring it as well. So we just zoom out there. So where Mr. Daly has said that there's not a template for this, what I would then do is simply go up to the top here, and I can just click on add or create. Just to zoom out, I've got a couple of options here. I can create my slides from scratch, because Mr. Daly said create a presentation. But if I've been working offline and I've created the presentation in, say, PowerPoint on my desktop, all I would simply do to upload it is I would go to click on File, and that would navigate to my computer. So I could just say upload from my computer, just like you'd be uploading a picture to Facebook. I would find the relevant file, click on it, upload. So let me just try and find something quickly to upload just to demo this. And what I can do, if I just go to downloads and just find a quick file, I can just say, let's just go for this. That's uploading in the background. And I can see there's an image of it here. And the key thing here to do is, if you've uploaded it from your computer, is to make sure you click on turn in, which is essentially hand in. And that will then give Mr. Daly a notification that I have submitted my work. Just to repeat, please make sure your child clicks on turn in to actually physically hand the work in to the teacher. So I'm going to click on turn in, and it will just ask me to confirm, do I want to turn that in? And I can say, yes, turn in. Okay. So that's the first assignment that's been handed in. Now I'm just going to navigate back to my classwork stream. So if I go to click on supporting your child, which will always take me back to the stream. If you ever get lost, if your child gets lost, just click on the title of the classroom, and that will bring you back to your stream. So I'm going to go into classwork again, because I have another piece of work to do for Mr. Daly. So I'm going to click on classwork, and this time I'm going to go down to the plastics and recycling task. I will then click on view assignment, because I want to see the assignment in more detail. Click on view assignment, zoom out here. Now, there's just a couple of things that look a bit more different from the screen that we had previously seen. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me just, whoops. So bear with me. Let me just sort that out. So what we've got now is a different screen. And if we zoom in, I've got a marking criteria for this assignment. So I can zoom in here and I've got the marking criteria. The assignment is out of 100. So some of the teachers will be putting this in there, the marking criteria, and your child will be able to look through and see what they will have to do to get that mark, and will have the descriptors there for you. Okay. This time, Mr. Daly has provided a template for me, so I don't need to click on add or create. I can simply just click on the document here. So the documents or the assignments will always be in the top right hand corner. So I'm just going to click on this assignment now and have a look at this work. Because I'm a good student, I was doing this late at night, completing my work, and I can go through here, and in the boxes I can just type in the answers to the questions that Mr. Daly has set me. So I'm more or less okay with this. But what Mr. Daly can do is he can also put comments on my work as well. Okay. So Mr. Daly might put a comment on there for me, and again we can have that private dialogue on the assessment.
So I think they can see. Can you see, if parents and girls, you should be able to see this now. So I've just got on that first page there. The student Lawrence put that comment there for land. I'm just going to put a comment on there saying, please reference your work, for instance.
So that comment will appear. Mr. Daly, I'm just going to put you on mute while I'm just talking. Just some of the parents saying there's a bit of feedback on there, so please jump in when if there's anything in there. So what I've got there is the comment from Mr. Daly here. So I was like, okay, please reference your work. I would say, I'll just click on that comment and say, yes, sir. Or I could actually say to Mr. Daly, I'm not quite sure what you mean about referencing or anything like that. And then Mr. Daly could come back to me and explain this a bit more and support me. So it's just like, is for example, having your textbook where a teacher would put a comment on there on a particular part of the work to help them progress to the next level. We can also do this with Google Classroom as well. So I'm just gonna click on reply, yes sir. And just imagine, because of time, that I have done this. So what I would then do is, again, just make sure in the top right hand corner is, once I've finished with this assignment and I'm happy with it, I would then click on turn in. So once I click on turn in, it will take me back to the classroom. And again, what we saw earlier of it just confirming, saying, are you sure you want to turn this in? Remember, turning in is just like handing in. I would just click on turn in. And then that work has been submitted to Mr. Daly. Okay. Just bear in mind, if your child has submitted the work, they will not be able to edit it unless they unsubmit it. Because I know there has been some issues there where a child has said, I've submitted the work, but I can't edit it no more. So all they would simply do, if they want to make any additional changes before the deadline, they could just simply click up here on unsubmit as well. Okay. Now, that's a brief guide around Classroom and an introduction to support you. This video will be made available and we will share it with you so you can look through it in your own time as well. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to jump back into my presentation and also pick up any questions that come through that are relevant to Google Classroom. So we've had a demo of Google Classroom. And what I just want to go through now are just some of the top tips for remote learning where I've seen it with other schools and also other parents that I've supported as well. Is where possible, I know it's not always possible, but try and have a dedicated learning space for your child as well, where possible. Establish a daily schedule and routine. So with the school, they're using the scheduled lessons, so try and follow that as well. When they're in between lessons or lunchtime or break time, encourage them to have breaks and physical activity away from the device, because sitting at the computer for long periods, it is a bit intense. So please do encourage them to have a break from it. Okay. Make sure your child only uses official school communication channels. So in this instance, they would use Classroom to communicate with their students. Okay. Familiarize yourself with the remote learning policy, and Mr. Daly has gone through that at the beginning. I do believe it might be available somewhere, but I'll let Mr. Daly talk through that as well. For students, make sure they have their timetable there so they know where they need to be as well, just on the side, like they would do in a normal lesson. Obviously, have water so they're hydrated as well. And then make sure son and daughter, if there are issues, takes pictures of their work if they cannot hand it in to Google Classroom as well. I'd just like to say, before we wrap things up and we take some questions, is thank you for attending this. I really do hope you found it useful, and you're doing a great job. We're not expecting you to take over from the teachers and to deliver the sessions, but we just thought this would be something very handy for you in order just to get familiar with Google Classroom. I'll bring Mr. Daly back in now, and then we'll go to some questions. Oh, sorry, and that's that bit there. If you're having any difficulties, as mentioned earlier, please contact the school using contact@stmichaelscollege.org.uk. And yep, I'll bring Mr. Daly back in now.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yes, thank you for that. Hopefully, as Mr. Lawrence said, that gives you a summary of our kind of just some tips there, just to try and monitor your sons and daughters' work. I'm getting one question that's coming in quite frequently, which several times, that your sons and daughters don't have a camera, so they've not got a camera on their PC. And we are aware of that. What we're trying to do is work through chronologically. So first of all, we're trying to make sure that all students have some kind of device. And once we've made sure that's confirmed, then we'll be looking at trying to make sure that the other sort of tech that might be missing, camera or sound. So we're looking to try and invest potentially to get some webcams that we can send out. Now, I can't say to you at the moment how many we're going to be able to get, but we are working on that as we speak, because we are aware, obviously, that some computers do not have cameras, or the cameras are not working. So please bear with us. As soon as we've got some more information, we'll let you know a bit more about that. I've got a couple of other questions here. Miss Johnny, I'll just show this question there. If the dock is locked and cannot be accessed, so for instance, this parent carer is saying that the son there hasn't worked for RE, but the document was locked, and they couldn't type on it.
So there's two reasons why that might happen. The first one would be if they've submitted it, like we mentioned earlier. If they submitted a document, the teacher becomes the owner of the document. So they would just simply have to unsubmit it to edit the document. The second reason why that might be is just if it's not being shared in the correct way. So what I would advise in that instance is for your child just simply to message the teacher in a private comment to say that they're not able to type in that document, and that will be rectified for them as soon as possible.
Thank you, Lawrence. We've kind of run out of time, so I'm just going to have to take a couple more questions. All of your questions will be answered on our college link, so we'll be putting these on our college portal. So please, you will have the answers to those. But any other questions you've got, please feel free to, as Lawrence said, to use the contact email address so we can answer those. I've just got a few here that I think might be quite important. This one's coming. Can my son send in paper copies of their work if they're having yes, they can. So if they've got any technical issues, they can take a picture of the work and they can send that via the Google Classroom. Isn't that correct, Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, so they can send it via Google Classroom if they're having issues. And the same thing would be take a picture. If it's on a mobile device, they would then have an option to attach it, and that would be uploaded to the classroom.
Thank you. This is a pretty relevant question. Is it possible all teachers could send the slides that students have learned in the lessons, I think, on the Google Classroom? I would like to think most teachers are doing that. So they are the slides that they're using, they're actually uploading those so the students can use them. We'll remind them that. So if you're feeling that that's not happening, please let us know so we can put some further support in for that. This is another question. Is there a way parents can get notifications about when work is due and if it's not? At the moment, no, but we're looking very shortly, Lawrence and myself and the rest of the IT team, a way whereby, a bit like the old Show My Homework. Do you remember the old Show My Homework app that we used a couple of years ago? There is a way, so we're just looking at the ramifications of that. And as soon as we've got some more information about that, we will be in touch with you to let you know, so that you can monitor even more closely your child's work. Some of the other questions are not quite relevant, so we've got some stuff here. I know some of you are a bit concerned. We've got this question: does the school have a wellbeing practitioner? I'm just putting this one in there because I'm aware that this is a difficult time for children. You know, they're at home, they're kind of isolated just within their family bubbles. We do have a counsellor on site here that can, if your son or daughter is struggling at all, please get in touch with us via the contact for your leaders of learning, and we will try and put in some support. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end this session now. Hopefully that's been useful. And you've got some relevant information that you can take away. Again, like I said, please feel free to ask any questions. And all the questions that we've not answered this evening will be put on the college portal with this video, if you want to play that back at your own speed. So you can pick up any of the points that perhaps you didn't pick up during the presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for all your support. And we'll be in contact, as we have been, throughout the next few weeks. Last thing from me, just over the next couple of weeks, every student will be getting a call or some kind of check-in, either by their form tutor, by their leader of learning, by a member of SLT, just to make sure that everything's fine. But if there are any pertinent issues that come up before that, get in touch with us. Have a lovely evening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, and good luck.